Some unknown thousands of years before the events of the Star Wars films, an energy field known as the Force comes into existence on a mysterious planet known as the Wellspring of Life. Three beings known as the Father, the Daughter, and the Son are all born as well. The Daughter embodies the light side of the Force, the Son embodies the dark, and the Father keeps their power in check in the realm of Mortis. Sentient beings evolve throughout the galaxy, and a number of species develop hyperspace technology, allowing them to explore and colonize more worlds, including the trading post of Batuu. The literal or figurative Prime Jedi is born, and Force-sensitive creatures gather on the planet Ahch-To with the purpose of starting the Jedi Order. They construct a temple and a village on one of the islands there. The Old Republic is founded, and the Jedi dedicate themselves to the preservation of peace and justice among its citizens. They spread their influence to more worlds, including Ilum and Jedha. Both planets become sacred to the Jedi as major sources of kyber crystals used in the construction of their lightsabers. An unidentified rogue Jedi splits from the Order, taking with him a number of followers, sparking the 100-Year Darkness and the creation of the Sith Order. A Sith temple is erected on Malachor, and at its heart is a superweapon powered by a massive kyber crystal. The Jedi attack the temple, and in the Great Scourge of Malachor, the superweapon is fired, petrifying all participants in the battle. Another splinter group of the Jedi, called the Ordu Espectu, begins researching the secrets of immortality. The Jedi oppose their quest, so the Ordu desperately sends their fortress through hyperspace to an unknown location where it is lost. A disturbed artist named Momin is discovered to be Force-sensitive and trained by the Sith Lady Shah. He eventually kills her, creates his own superweapon, and attacks the planet Mustafar. He is stopped by the Jedi, but the planet is transformed into a lava-covered wasteland. Momin's helmet is taken to the Jedi Temple for safekeeping. The Sith Empire spreads. The dark side users briefly control the galaxy and build a shrine on the planet Coruscant. 1,000 years later, Jedi and Republic forces successfully drive their Sith enemies away. Attempting to remove dark side energies from the planet, 4 Jedi Masters build a new Jedi Temple on top of the Sith shrine. In the midst of fighting with the Sith, the Jedi encounter a warrior people known as Mandalorians. Fearful of the Jedi's mystical powers and the Force, the Mandalorians develop new technology to combat them on equal ground, and the Mandalorian Wars begin. Despite their differences, the Jedi accept a Mandalorian named Tar Vizsla into their ranks. He creates a unique lightsaber called the Darksaber, and after his death, it is stored in the Jedi Temple. The final conflict of the Mandalorian Wars occurs on Mandalore, the heart of the Mandalorian Empire. Their homeworld is devastated and scorched into a lifeless desert. The Sith Wars continue for thousands of years. Battles are fought on many planets, including Takodana, on the exact site where Maz Kanata will one day build her castle. The final confrontation is again on Coruscant. The Mandalorians, possibly in league with the Sith, use the opportunity to infiltrate the Jedi Temple and reclaim Tar Vizsla's Darksaber. The Sith are defeated, leaving Darth Bane as the sole survivor. Realizing that his peers' lust for power and infighting were a key element in their downfall, he takes on a single apprentice and begins the Rule of Two. Living in secret, the Sith could grow more powerful not only in the Force, but politically as well, until they could orchestrate the downfall of the Jedi and the return of the Sith Empire. As a result of the Sith Wars, the Old Republic collapses and is reformed into the Galactic Republic. Believing the Sith to be extinct, the Jedi Order rebuilds. About 500 years later, the Citadel is constructed to imprison rogue Jedi in hopes of preventing any future uprisings like the 100-Year Darkness. But the Galactic Republic largely knows nothing but peace for the 1,000 years after its creation. During that time, the Sith Order continues to remain hidden thanks to the Rule of Two. Darth Plagueis and his apprentice, Darth Sidious, are the latest Sith in Darth Bane's lineage. After learning everything he can from his master, Sidious kills Plagueis in his sleep. Darth Sidious is publicly known as Senator Sheev Palpatine of Naboo, and his ultimate goal is to manufacture a galactic conflict that will throw the Republic into chaos and allow him to seize political power. He meets the Night Sister Mother Talzin and takes her son Maul as his new apprentice. Together they travel to the ruined Malachor, where Maul witnesses the history of the Sith and is instilled with an intense hatred and desire for revenge against the Jedi. A Jedi Padawan named Mace Windu travels with his master Sislin Mur to the planet Mathas, where they arrest a man taking advantage of the locals by masquerading as a Jedi. A young Padawan named Qui-Gon Jinn becomes the apprentice of Jedi Master Dooku. Together they research the prophecies of ancient Jedi mystics. Another Jedi Master named Sifo-Dyas has visions of an upcoming conflict and attempts to warn the Galactic Republic. He is dismissed as a warmonger and removed from the Jedi Council. He takes matters into his own hands by commissioning the Kaminoans to create a clone army for the Republic, which catches the attention of Sidious. After Qui-Gon's promotion to Jedi Knight, his former master becomes disillusioned with the Jedi Order and peacefully steps down from his position, returning to his homeworld of Sereno. A slave named Shmi Skywalker gives birth to a fatherless son she names Anakin, who is conceived purely by the will of the Cosmic Force. Qui-Gon takes on an apprentice of his own named Obi-Wan Kenobi. During a mission to the planet Pyjal, he receives a vision through the Force that convinces him the ancient Jedi prophecies are true. At the age of 3, Anakin and his mother become the property of the junk dealer Watto on the remote desert world Tatooine. The Mandalorian people experience civil war as Duchess Satine Kryze attempts to shift their culture from that of conquerors into pacifists. The militant group known as Death Watch wants to assassinate the Duchess, so Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are tasked with her protection. They live on the run for a year, and Obi-Wan and Satine develop feelings for each other. But when the war comes to an end, the Duchess returns to Mandalore to lead her now pacifist people, and Obi-Wan continues his Jedi training. Meanwhile, the Jedi Master Yoda follows the call of the Force to a war-torn planet called Vagadar. There he learns to control a unique aspect of the Force known as Stone Power and brings peace to the inhabitants. Maul grows impatient of his master's plans and secrecy and seeks to test his power against a Jedi Padawan named Eldra Kaitis. He kills her, much to his master's delight. Sidious begins the first phase of his master plan by engineering a blockade of his home planet. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent to end the dispute. They rescue the planet's ruler, Queen Padme Amidala, and are forced to retreat to Tatooine, where they meet Anakin Skywalker. Recognizing him to be the chosen one of Jedi prophecy, Qui-Gon arranges for Anakin's freedom and takes him back to Coruscant. The Galactic Republic's inability to solve the problems on Naboo reveals the ineffectiveness of the Senate and allows Palpatine to not only vote the Supreme Chancellor out of office, but also take the position for himself. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme return to Naboo to remove the blockade by force. Darth Maul confronts them and cuts down Qui-Gon before being dealt a mortal wound himself. Anakin is admitted to the Jedi Order as the Padawan of Obi-Wan. Despite the loss of Maul and the end of the blockade, Palpatine's goal has been achieved and he sets his eyes on Anakin as Maul's replacement. But in the meantime, he begins training Dooku. Together, they arrange for the death of Sifo-Dyas and secretly take control of the clone army he commissioned. Anakin trains with Obi-Wan for 3 years, proving to be incredibly gifted in the Force. He falls under the mentorship of the Supreme Chancellor, who encourages the boy's thoughts that the Jedi Order are not what he expected. Anakin considers leaving the Order, but a mission with his master to the war-torn planet Carnelian IV convinces him to stay. After serving 2 full terms as the Queen of Naboo, Padme Amidala is appointed to represent her planet in the Senate. She and her loyal handmaidens, including her body double Sabe, begin making political allies with other like-minded senators. 10 years after the blockade of Naboo, Dooku leads thousands of star systems in seceding from the Republic, beginning the conflict that was foreseen by Sifo-Dyas. The Republic Senate is hesitant to create an army. Dooku orders the assassination of Padme, who is a staunch opponent to Republic militarization. The assassination fails, Anakin is tasked with her protection, and the two fall in love. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan investigates the would-be assassins and discovers the clone army on Kamino. Fearing they have no other choice, the Senate grants Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers, gives the Jedi Order command of the clones, and the Clone Wars begin. Anakin secretly marries Padme, rises to the rank of Jedi Knight, and is assigned a Padawan named Ahsoka. The Republic discovers plans to a new superweapon in the hands of their enemies. Palpatine manipulates a small group of scientists and engineers into creating the weapon for themselves, but the super laser proves to be a challenging breakthrough. A cyborg separatist general named Grievous takes control of droid forces and wreaks havoc across the galaxy. Trained by Dooku himself, he claims many Jedi lives during the war. Jedi Master Mace Windu leads a small task force to liberate the planet Hisric. One member of his team, Proset Dibs, realizes the Republic's priority is not to protect the people of the planet, but instead protect its resources. After securing Hisric, Dibs claims that the Jedi Order should not play a role in such a large-scale conflict and turns on Mace. He is defeated and found guilty of treason by the Jedi Council, who mercifully place him on probation. Dooku takes an apprentice of his own, a Night Sister named Asajj Ventress. Sidious grows wary of Ventress's strength and demands that she be killed as a test of Dooku's loyalty. She escapes the attempt on her life and becomes a bounty hunter. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are led to the realm of Mortis by the Father, who seeks someone to take his place as the keeper of the daughter and the son. Anakin proves himself to be worthy of the task, but the Force wielders ultimately destroy themselves, and the Jedi return to the known galaxy. Anakin and Ahsoka grow close, but they both see the less noble side of the Jedi when Ahsoka is wrongly accused of murder and kicked out of the Order. Anakin clears her name and she is invited back, but feeling betrayed by those she respected most, she decides to leave. Anakin's trust in the Jedi Order is weakened. The true murderer is arrested and announces her belief that the Jedi have lost their way by openly serving in the Clone Wars. A young Padawan named Caleb Dume begins training under the Jedi Master Depa Billaba after they thwart a terrorist attack on the Jedi Temple together. The Jedi Council gravely decides that the fastest way to end the Clone Wars could be the assassination of Count Dooku. Quinlan Vos is given the job and he teams up with Asajj Ventress. The two fall in love on the mission, but Quinlan falls to the dark side as he gets close to Dooku. He is redeemed and returns to the Jedi when Asajj gives her life to save his. In the midst of a battle, a clone murders one of his Jedi generals. An investigation reveals the presence of an inhibitor chip placed in the minds of all clone soldiers. Only 2 clones learn the whole truth. One is killed by his brothers, and the other is captured and placed in stasis aboard a separatist cruiser that is lost in space. However, a number of clones later learn the truth for themselves, prompting them to remove their chips. When Padme goes missing near the planet Batuu on the edges of wild space, Anakin investigates and meets a Chiss tactical genius named Thrawn. They track down Padme, and together they all shut down a separatist factory. Maul, having miraculously survived his injuries at the Battle of Naboo, takes control of the planet Mandalore and leadership of the Mandalorian Death Watch, claiming the Darksaber for himself. He kills Duchess Satine in front of Obi-Wan as an act of revenge. Maul's return catches the eye of his former master, who sees him as a potential rival and puts an end to his crusade by chasing him throughout the galaxy, destroying most of his forces and killing his mother, Talzin. Maul takes the few fighters he has left back to Mandalore. There he is met in combat by a joint force of Mandalorians and clones led by Ahsoka. He is defeated and retreats. As the Siege of Mandalore begins, war comes to Coruscant for the first time in 1,000 years. Anakin confronts and kills Count Dooku, again leaving Sidious without an apprentice. Obi-Wan travels to Utapau where he destroys General Grievous. Padme becomes pregnant with Anakin's child and he begins to have visions of her death. Desperate to save her, he seeks advice from Palpatine, who not only reveals that he is a Sith Lord, but also has the power to save Padme. Anakin joins Sidious and takes up the name Darth Vader for a chance to save his wife. He betrays the Jedi Order, helps kill Mace Windu, and leads an attack on the Jedi Temple. Simultaneously, Palpatine issues a command to all clones that triggers their chips to kill the Jedi. Within moments, most of the Jedi Order is destroyed. Anakin is then sent to Mustafar to assassinate the remaining leaders of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. With their deaths, the Clone Wars come to an end. Having no one left to oppose him, Palpatine transitions the Republic into the First Galactic Empire and proclaims himself Emperor of the Galaxy. Caleb, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Yoda survive the initial attack on the Jedi. Yoda confronts Sidious while Obi-Wan confronts Anakin. Yoda is defeated and goes into exile on the planet Dagobah. Anakin is dismembered and badly burned but left clinging to life by Obi-Wan. Padme dies giving birth to twins she names Luke and Leia. Leia is hidden with Senator Bail Organa of the planet Alderaan, and Obi-Wan takes Luke to his aunt and uncle on Tatooine. Darth Sidious informs Darth Vader that his wife and child are dead. Sabe grows suspicious of Padme's death and is contacted by Bail, who requests her presence on Alderaan. Anakin is forced to wear a biomechanical suit in order to survive, and he takes up his position as apprentice to Darth Sidious. He constructs a Sith lightsaber using the Kyber crystal of a fallen Jedi, and is then placed in charge of the Empire's Jedi killers known as the Inquisitorius. Made up of fallen Jedi, they are tasked with hunting down and destroying any Jedi that survived the Clone Wars. One such member, the Chief Archivist of the Jedi Order, Jocasta Nu, returns to the Jedi Temple to recover a list of Force-sensitive children. She is caught and killed in the process, but the list is also destroyed. Her actions lead the Emperor to find a vault full of ancient Force relics, including the helmet of Sith Lord Momin. The superweapon known as the Death Star continues construction, and the brilliant scientist Galen Erso is manipulated into designing the super laser. Caleb is forced to abandon the ways of the Jedi in order to remain hidden. He changes his name to Canon Jarrus. Word of a Jedi hiding on Mon Cala reaches the ears of the Empire, so Vader takes a handful of Inquisitors, including the former Jedi Proset Dibs, to eliminate him. They are successful, and the Mon Calamari people find themselves completely subjugated, with their king, Lee Char, taken hostage. Ahsoka hides in the Outer Rim for a year until she meets Bail Organa. They join forces to help systems that have fallen under the oppression of the Empire, and she takes up the code name Fulcrum. Thanks to the help of a high-ranking Imperial, Galen Erso discovers that he is constructing a weapon of terrible power for the Empire and escapes to the Outer Rim with the help of a Rebel and Clone Wars veteran named Saw Gerrera. Darth Vader, the Inquisitors, and their Purge troopers continue their hunt for surviving Jedi for the next 5 years. Sidious has doubts regarding Vader's loyalties, and engineers attest for their survival at the rebellious planet Ryloth. Their ship is shot down, and Vader is forced to more fully embrace the dark side to keep them alive. Moff Tarkin, a merciless Imperial leader, is tasked with the protection of the Death Star after Galen's escape. Rebels come close to discovering the secret construction, but with the help of Darth Vader, Tarkin not only destroys them, but reveals an Imperial traitor. His success prompts his promotion to Grand Moff, the first of the Empire. Having destroyed most of the surviving Jedi, Darth Vader is gifted a planet from his master. He chooses Mustafar and builds a fortress there with the help of Momin's helmet, which is able to possess anyone who wears it. The fortress is designed to reach the netherworld of the Force, where Vader hopes to resurrect his wife. Momin betrays Vader and instead resurrects himself, but is quickly destroyed. Galen Erso remains hidden for 4 years, but is tracked down by his former colleague and Imperial Director of Advanced Weapons Research, Orson Krennic. Galen's wife is killed, he is taken into Imperial custody, and is forced to continue working on the Death Star, leaving his daughter Jyn in the care of Saw Gerrera. On Corellia, a young orphan named Han survives as a member of the White Worm Gang. He falls in love with a fellow scrum rat named Kira, and they plan to escape their miserable lives, buy their own ship, and fly wherever they want. But Kira is caught during their escape attempt. Han joins the Imperial Academy to quickly get off Corellia, where he butts heads with authority and his fellow students. Kira is sold to the criminal syndicate known as Crimson Dawn, which is controlled by Maul. After 8 years in hiding, Kanan has become a drunk freighter pilot. He meets a rebel named Hera with whom he becomes infatuated. He sobers up and fights to protect a small planet in the Outer Rim, which requires him to reveal himself as a Force user. He joins Hera on her ship, the Ghost. Their actions gain the attention of a young Imperial captain named Rey Sloane. Obi-Wan continues to watch over Luke, who begins showing evidence of his potential strength in the Force. Curious about the might of the Empire, Thrawn allows himself to be captured and is taken before the Emperor, who is so impressed with the man that he is admitted to the Imperial Navy. A gambler named Lando Calrissian and his droid partner L337 aboard their ship the Millennium Falcon unknowingly discover the construction of a mysterious device that will later be known as the Phalanx Redux Transmitter. They share a number of adventures that Lando documents as the Calrissian Chronicles. When they help a group of slaves escape Imperial custody, the Falcon is impounded on the planet Vandor, so Lando heads there to find a way to break it out. After 3 years in Imperial service, Han meets a Wookiee named Chewbacca on the planet Mimban. Together they escape the Empire with a group of criminals run by a man named Beckett. They also travel to Vandor to rob an Imperial conveyance, which would earn them enough credits to retire. The job fails thanks to a rebel sympathizer named Enfys Nest, and they are forced to answer to Crimson Dawn, where Han is reunited with Kira. They hire Lando and break out the Falcon to attempt another robbery, but ultimately Han and Chewie decide to help Enfys. L3 and Beckett are killed, and Kira is forced to move deeper into Crimson Dawn ranks to protect Han. Jyn Erso fights with Saw Gerrera and his partisans until he leaves her helpless in the middle of a battle. 16 years old and alone, she is forced to live a life of crime to survive. On the Outer Rim planet of Lothal, a boy named Zer Leonis looks forward to joining his sister in the Imperial Academy until she goes missing. Believing the Empire is behind her disappearance, he makes plans to infiltrate the Academy to find her. On the same planet, another boy, an orphan named Ezra Bridger, inadvertently assists some rebels in stealing some supplies from the Empire. Those rebels turn out to be Kanan and Hera. Ezra learns that he has abilities in the Force, and Kanan decides to train him. During that time, they discover and visit a Jedi temple on Lothal. Ezra also infiltrates the Imperial Academy and meets Zere. The two young spies help each other in their respective missions. Zere is eventually transferred to a more elite academy on Arcanus. There he meets Commandant Brindle Hux, who believes the future of the Empire requires a marriage of Imperial and Republic army doctrines. Zere, with the help of Ezra, is able to find and rescue his sister, who was imprisoned after the Empire discovered her Force sensitivity. Leia Organa becomes a junior legislator in the Imperial Senate and learns that both her adoptive parents are members of the growing insurgency against the Empire. She begins helping Bail and Breha Organa secretly support the rebellion, and even helps the Ghost crew on Lothal. Kanan, Ezra, and the rest of their crew cause enough problems for the Empire that Darth Vader himself is sent to hunt them down. Ahsoka also joins their crew when their small cell joins the larger rebellion. The three Force users travel to Malachor, hoping to find a way to defeat the Sith. There they find Maul, who has returned to the planet after apparently losing control of Crimson Dawn. He attempts to pull Ezra to the dark side and blinds Kanan before retreating. Darth Vader finds them at the Sith Temple and confronts Ahsoka. She fights him long enough to allow Kanan and Ezra to escape with a Sith holocron. Han, having won the Millennium Falcon from Lando in a game of sabacc, takes a job that involves the Phalanx Redux transmitter that Lando encountered 5 years earlier. Han briefly acquires it, but is forced to abandon it to float through space. Senator Mon Mothma publicly denounces Emperor Palpatine and rallies the various rebel cells into a unified movement. As their organization continues to grow, Thrawn, who has risen to the rank of Grand Admiral, is tasked with the destruction of Kanan and Hera's specific cell. Maul reappears and uses Ezra and the Sith holocron to determine that Obi-Wan survived the Clone Wars. He hunts down the old Jedi Master and is finally killed for good. The Darksaber passes to Sabine Wren, a Mandalorian member of Hera's crew. She uses it to rally Mandalorians against the Empire and passes it to Bo-Katan, the sister of Satine Kryze. Thrawn finds the location of Hera's rebel base and forces them to retreat to Yavin 4. He is then recalled by the Emperor and paired up with Darth Vader on a mission to Batuu, where the two first met. They investigate a new potential threat to the Empire, beings from the unknown regions known as the Grisk. When the Grand Admiral returns to Imperial space, he develops a new starfighter called the TIE Defender, which begins production on Lothal. Ezra and his friends return to Lothal to destroy the factory and liberate the planet. They are ultimately successful in the destruction of the factory, but Kanan is killed in the process. Ezra returns to the Jedi Temple on the planet to investigate Imperial activity there. He finds a portal to a mysterious place known as the World Between Worlds that exists outside of space and time. He is able to see Ahsoka's duel with Darth Vader on Malachor, and he saves her from certain death, but each of them have to return to their own times. Ezra leads one final mission against the Imperial occupation on Lothal. Not only is he successful in liberating the planet, but he also removes Grand Admiral Thrawn as a present danger by jumping into an unknown area of the galaxy. When Han is held hostage by Imperial bureaucrats, Chewbacca is forced to investigate a nexus in the dark side where he discovers an ancient book, which is then stolen by rebel operatives named Cassian Andor and K2SO, but Chewie successfully rescues Han anyway. As the Death Star nears completion, Galen gets a message out to Saw Gerrera and Jyn, who reunite on Jedha. Galen claims to have left a flaw in the superweapon's design. Jyn personally witnesses the might of the Death Star when it fires a test shot into Jedha, killing a city full of people, Saw Gerrera, and most of his partisans. Jyn leads a group of rebels in an attack on the Imperial planet Scarif, where the Death Star plans are held. The Battle of Scarif is the first large-scale act of open war against the Empire as a truly unified rebel alliance. Krennic, Jyn, and her entire team are killed on the mission, including Cassian and K2, but the plans are successfully stolen and passed on to Princess Leia of Alderaan. Her ship is captured by Darth Vader above Tatooine, and she sends the plans in an escape pod to the planet below with 2 droids in hopes that they can find Obi-Wan for safe delivery to Alderaan. As the Empire searches for the droids, they murder Luke's aunt and uncle. Luke and the droids make their way to Obi-Wan, who begins training Luke as a Jedi as they travel to Alderaan after booking passage with Han Solo and Chewbacca. But Grand Moff Tarkin orders the destruction of Alderaan as an example of its power, killing Bail and Breha Organa along with every being on the planet. When Luke and the others arrive, they are captured by the Death Star. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca rescue Leia and escape, but Obi-Wan confronts his old apprentice again and is struck down. Leia delivers the plans to Yavin 4, and Luke joins the counterattack against the Death Star. The rebels are able to exploit the weakness placed by Galen Erso, and the station is destroyed, but Darth Vader survives. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca are given medals for their part in the Battle of Yavin. Yes, Chewbacca gets one too. After the discovery of the base on Yavin 4, the rebellion is forced to become mobile. Leia races across the galaxy, gathering surviving Alderaanians and bringing them to safety. In addition to receiving a medal, Han is given a large sum of money so that he can pay off his debts to a gangster named Jabba the Hutt. Instead of taking care of that issue right away, he and Chewie continue to help the Alliance, rescuing rebel spies whose covers were compromised in the wake of the Death Star's destruction. Chewbacca also frees a number of slaves on the planet Andelm 4. Luke continues his Jedi training as best he can on his own. During another mission to rescue a rebel operative, he gains some minor control over telepathy and some understanding of the inner workings of a lightsaber. On another mission, he travels to a ruined Jedi temple on Deveron, where he is able to train against remotes and greatly improve his mastery over the weapon. The loss of the Death Star inspires Imperial Admiral Garrick Versio to build an elite team of soldiers dubbed Inferno Squad. His daughter, Iden Versio, successfully leads them on their first mission to find, infiltrate, and destroy some of the surviving members of Saw Gerrera's partisans. Leia, Han, Chewie, and Luke attack a major weapons facility on Cymoon 1. There, Luke is met by Darth Vader, who recognizes the lightsaber wielded by the young man. Vader begins an investigation with the help of the bounty hunter Boba Fett, who learns that Luke's last name is Skywalker. Vader realizes the Emperor has been deceiving him for nearly 2 decades and enlists the help of an archaeologist named Dr. Aphra to create a personal army that he can use to overthrow the Emperor. Aphra helps for a time, but ultimately betrays him to his master, who sees Vader's actions as proof that he has devoted himself to the dark side and gives him command of Imperial forces. Fearing Vader, Aphra goes into hiding. In her place, Vader makes an ally in Queen Trios of the industrial world Shu Torun. Han is hired to participate in a famous race as a cover to pick up and rescue more rebel spies. He still hasn't paid off his debts to Jabba. Luke begins reading the journals of Obi-Wan to learn more about the Jedi. A woman named Sana tracks down Han, claiming to be his wife, but their marriage was part of a scam that he cheated her on, and she simply wants her share. She enters the service of the rebellion as a mercenary. A rebel agent on Coruscant is presented with a chance to assassinate Palpatine. His attempt fails and he is horribly scarred. Learning the truth that the Emperor is a Sith Lord, he begins a crusade to murder Imperials being held in a secret rebel prison until he is stopped by Leia. Luke, Leia, Han, and the others steal a Star Destroyer so they can deliver supplies to a starving planet under Imperial blockade. They are barely successful after coming into contact with an elite stormtrooper unit called Scar Squadron. Dr. Aphra returns to archaeology, and with the help of her murderous droids 000 and BT-1, discovers the location of the ancient fortress of the Ordu Ispectu. She recovers the memory crystal of a fallen Jedi named Rur and hopes to sell it on the black market. She first seeks to activate the crystal by manipulating Luke Skywalker into helping her achieve an audience with the parasitic Queen of the Screaming Citadel. The Queen attempts to kidnap Luke, but is defeated, and the Rur crystal is activated. Aphra then organizes an auction for the crystal, but 000 alerts Darth Vader of her whereabouts. The droid forces Aphra to release him as her servant to help her survive, and she complies. Now forced to serve the murderous droid, she retreats, and the Rur crystal is recovered by Vader. 000 sends Aphra on a mission to recover his long-lost memories, hoping he can unlock his true potential. She is successful but encrypts them and alerts the Empire of her master's location to keep him from killing her. She is then sent to an Imperial prison where she unknowingly meets Dr. Cornelius Evazan, who helps her escape. He captures Aphra and 000, placing bombs inside both of them, and drops them on the law-obsessed planet Milvain, simply because he thinks it will be entertaining watching them have to work together. They successfully disable the explosives, and in the process, they completely disrupt the lifestyle of the planet, causing an uprising against the Empire and Milvain law enforcement. Lando Calrissian, having continued his life as a scoundrel and gambler, is steeped in debt. He's hired to steal a ship full of priceless art. The ship belongs to Palpatine, and the art is of Sith origins. Momin's helmet is on board, and when it begins corrupting members of his team, Lando destroys the ship and escapes with his friend Lobot. After beginning construction on a second Death Star, the Empire returns to what remains of Jedha to harvest the Kyber crystals that power the weapon's superlaser. Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie help the final remaining survivors of Saw Gerrera's partisans in defense of the moon. Queen Trios offers herself to Leia as an informant, and the two begin working together. Still seeking a permanent base, the rebels investigate the planet Crate, which was once used as a hideout by Leia's father. They set up some minor defenses, but are discovered and attacked by Scar Squadron, forcing the Alliance to stay on the move. Hoping to find more allies in the shipbuilders of Mon Cala, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie attempt to break Lee Char out of Imperial prison. He is killed in the process, but delivers a stirring speech to his subjects who liberate their fleet and join the Rebel Alliance. With Rebel leadership gathered in one place, Queen Trios betrays Leia, calling the Imperial fleet to their location. Many members of Alliance High Command are killed, and the survivors scattered across the galaxy. Luke, Leia, and Han become stranded on the moon Hubin, where they are taken in by former mercenaries known as Clan Marcona. Scar Squadron eventually tracks them down, the moon is evacuated, and Luke, Leia, and Han rejoin what remains of the Rebel fleet. Hoping to strike back at the Empire, Leia creates a plan to remove Queen Trios and Shu-Torun as industrial assets. Eventually, the rebels set up a base on the remote ice planet Hoth. They are only there for 3 months until being discovered by the Empire, forcing them to evacuate. Luke travels to Dagobah to find Yoda and begins training under the old Jedi Master. Meanwhile, Darth Vader chases Han, Leia, and Chewbacca to Cloud City, which is under the ownership of Han's old friend Lando. Han and Leia fall in love along the way, but Vader forces Lando to betray the rebels, and Han is frozen in carbonite to be delivered to Jabba. Luke races off to save his friends. He is beaten in a duel with Darth Vader, who reveals that he is Luke's father. Devastated, Luke escapes Cloud City with Lando and Leia. Shortly after, a group of TIE fighter pilots known as Shadow Wing begin to make a name for themselves. The rebel group Twilight Company participates in the Battle of Inyusu Tor, which is not a major victory but does bring the Solistan people more firmly into the rebellion. The Rebel Alliance discovers the Empire's second Death Star and begins planning an all-out attack after learning that Emperor Palpatine will soon be visiting the space station. Fearing the Empire will notice their mustering forces at Solist, Leia offers herself up as high-profile bait, leading the Empire on a distracting chase across the galaxy. When she returns, Luke tells her he has a plan to rescue Han from Jabba. The rebellion intercepts a coded Imperial message that would reveal their attack on the second Death Star is a trap, but Inferno Squad infiltrates one of their ships and recovers the data. Leia and Chewbacca travel to Ord Mantell, where they are attacked by the bounty hunter Bosch. They defeat him, and Leia takes his armor as a disguise. She uses it to create a cover for herself and Chewbacca to infiltrate Jabba's palace. Han is successfully rescued, and Jabba the Hutt is killed in the process. Luke returns to Dagobah, where Yoda confirms that Darth Vader is indeed his father before passing away. Immediately after, the spirit of Obi-Wan tells Luke that Leia is his twin sister. Luke returns to the Rebel fleet, who prepares for their assault on the second Death Star, which orbits the forest moon of Endor. Luke, Han, and Leia lead a ground mission to disable the Death Star's defenses, but Luke decides to leave to try to bring his father back to the light side. He tells Leia all about their messed up family history and surrenders himself to the Empire. The rebellion falls into the trap, and in the Battle of Endor, Luke successfully redeems Darth Vader, who sacrifices himself to kill Darth Sidious, becoming Anakin Skywalker once more in his final moments of life. Luke escapes as the second Death Star is destroyed, and what remains of the Empire retreats. Han and Leia marry and become pregnant soon after. For the following year, a secret contingency plan set up by Palpatine is carried out by his most trusted commanders. Operation Cinder targets not only rebellious worlds, but the Imperial planets that failed to protect their leader. Inferno Squad falls apart in the wake of the destruction and defects to the Rebel Alliance, which has reformed into the New Republic. Inferno Squad is just one of many task forces sent out to hunt down high-ranking Imperials. Feeling that the New Republic's priorities are not where they should be, Han and Chewbacca go rogue and lead a mission to liberate Chewie's enslaved homeworld, Kashyyyk. The New Republic ultimately decides to help, and the Wookiees are freed. Luke begins traveling the galaxy to research the Jedi Order and gather missing relics of their past. 1 year after the death of the Emperor, Operation Cinder comes to its conclusion at the Battle of Jakku, which sees the purposeful destruction of most of the Empire. Ray Sloan, who has since been promoted to the rank of Grand Admiral, transmits coordinates to the few survivors who are considered worthy. They escape into the unknown regions and rendezvous with the Emperor's secret super star destroyer, the Eclipse. The Imperials left behind surrender, and the galactic civil war comes to an end. On the very same day, Leia gives birth to Ben Solo. Mon Mothma quickly begins to demilitarize the New Republic to assure the galaxy that the time for fighting has ended. 2 years later, Han and Lando are forced to revisit their former adventures involving the Phalanx Redux transmitter. They learn the device has the power to turn all droids into killers, and they seek it out and destroy it before it can be activated. In the unknown regions, the Imperial Remnant faces many dangers and only survives thanks to the help of a mysterious being known only as Snoke. He is strong in the dark side of the Force and slowly takes over the Empire by eliminating his competition until he is the only option left to follow. The Empire becomes known as the First Order. One of their scouting ships crash lands on a savage planet called Parnassos. A brutal warrior named Phasma helps the First Order officers contact their allies, and in exchange they allow her to join their ranks to help train a new breed of soldier. After years of learning about the Force and the Jedi Order of old, Luke decides he is ready to begin his own Jedi Academy, taking his nephew Ben as one of his first students. Snoke interferes and begins drawing Ben over to the dark side. Having grown ill, Mon Mothma steps down as leader of the New Republic. The Senate quickly devolves into corruption without her leadership. Leia becomes a candidate to lead the Senate, but a rival learns that she is the daughter of Darth Vader, and her political career is destroyed. In the midst of all this, Leia learns of the existence of the First Order, although not by name, and she creates a secret resistance to better protect the galaxy. Luke senses danger in his apprentice and ignites his lightsaber against Ben in a moment of weakness. The act pushes Ben fully to the dark side, who attacks Luke, kills most of the other students, joins the First Order, and takes up the name Kylo Ren. Devastated, Luke goes into hiding, and Han and Leia go their separate ways. Bazine Natal is hired to retrieve a mysterious package from a veteran of the Battle of Endor. Sidon Athano, the pirate also known as the Crimson Corsair, follows a beacon to a rumored secret treasure of Count Dooku. Instead of riches, he finds the clone trooper Kix that had been frozen in stasis for nearly 50 years. Poe Dameron, the son of 2 veterans of the Galactic Civil War, becomes aware of the First Order and leaves the New Republic Navy to join General Organa and the Resistance. He leads Black Squadron in covert missions against the First Order as they attempt to gain more influence in the Senate. Their main priority is to find Luke Skywalker and bring him back to help. Poe is able to track down an old ally of Luke's named Lor San Tekka, whose research points them towards the hidden Jedi Master. Poe also takes a young Hosnian New Republic pilot named Kazuda Xiono under his wing. After joining the Resistance, Kaz is stationed on an old space station named the Colossus on the planet Castellan. There he sees the First Order infiltrate and attempt to take over the platform. The First Order is also hunting Luke and tracks down Poe and Lor San Tekka on Jakku. Poe hides the only clue of the whereabouts of the Last Jedi in his droid BB-8, who escapes the fight. Poe also escapes the First Order thanks to a defecting stormtrooper who comes to be known as Finn. They head back to Jakku to find BB-8 but are separated. The droid enlists the help of a scavenger named Rey. They meet up with Finn and leave the planet in the Millennium Falcon, which has been sitting inactive on Jakku for an unknown amount of time. Han and Chewie quickly pick up the ship's transponder and retake it. They agree to transport Finn, Rey, and BB-8 to Takodana to get help from Maz Kanata. Maz discovers Rey has powers in the Force and offers her the lightsaber that once belonged to Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Meanwhile, the Resistance sends their bombing squadrons on a relief mission to a remote system. Fearing the Resistance will soon reach Luke, the First Order activates the superweapon they spent decades constructing, Starkiller Base. They destroy the New Republic Senate and its fleet in mere moments. From across the galaxy, Iden Versio witnesses the destruction and begins to investigate First Order activity with her daughter Zay. They board a Star Destroyer and steal a number of schematics. From Castellan, Kaz also witnesses the destruction of his homeworld. Despite his grief, he rallies the citizens of the Colossus against the First Order, reactivates the station, and escapes into hyperspace. Kylo Ren attacks Takodana and captures Rey, hoping her knowledge will lead him to his uncle. Han, Chewie, and Finn travel to Starkiller Base to rescue her while the Resistance attacks the weapon itself without their bombers. Finn holds Captain Phasma at gunpoint, forcing her to lower the base's shields. After being interrogated by Kylo, Rey begins to understand and control her powers. She is able to free herself and find Finn and the others. Han confronts his son, hoping to bring him home, but instead, Kylo kills his father and faces Rey in a duel. She defeats him, but leaves him alive. As Starkiller Base explodes, she escapes with Finn, Chewie, and the surviving Resistance pilots. Meanwhile, Iden and Zay hijack the Star Destroyer they boarded and pull it out of hyperspace just in time to witness the destruction. Iden dies from a gunshot wound, and Zay takes the schematics back to the Resistance. A single First Order officer discovers Phasma lowered Starkiller Base's shields, so the captain hunts him down and executes him before he can tell anyone else. At the Resistance base, the final location of Luke Skywalker is discovered. Rey and Chewie set off to find him on Ahch-To. The Resistance quickly evacuates their base after being discovered by the First Order, and are chased across the galaxy by Snoke's personal flagship. Most of the pilots of Black Squadron are sent to gather help for the Resistance in the Outer Rim. Luke refuses to train Rey or return to help, believing the galaxy is better off without the interference of the Jedi. Desperate and with no one else to turn to, she forges a strange mental connection with Kylo Ren, and the two bond. Luke witnesses the two of them conversing through the Force and demands she leave. She does so and seeks Kylo out on Snoke's ship, believing he will return to the light side. He does kill Snoke, but wishes to shape the galaxy into his own vision rather than join her. Rey escapes and rejoins Chewie on the Falcon. Running out of fuel, the Resistance flees to Crate and takes shelter in the defenses that were set up so long ago. Kylo Ren leads an attack to wipe them out for good, but is suddenly confronted by his uncle. Luke buys the Resistance enough time to be rescued by Rey before Kylo realizes that he is only a projection in the Force. The effort of creating the illusion causes Luke to become one with the Force, but his example inspires the Resistance and the rest of the galaxy to stand and fight against the First Order. United on the Millennium Falcon, Finn, Poe, and Rey swap stories until Poe hears word from his fellow Black Squadron pilots. They've become pinned down after a First Order attack, and Poe races off to rescue them. In need of repairs, the Falcon is taken to Batuu, where a notorious pirate named Hondo Ohnaka has set up a halfway legitimate shipyard. However, he uses the famous ship for smuggling jobs whenever he can. The First Order and the Resistance also set up a presence on Batuu, searching for some unknown relic to turn the tide of the war. While the result of the conflict is unknown, one thing is for certain: enemies once thought vanquished may yet have a role to play, because no one's ever really gone. As of right now, May 4th, 2019, that's the broad story of every canon Star Wars movie, TV series, book, comic, and video game. Some of the dates, especially early on, are rough estimates because early history hasn't been covered in detail yet, and obviously I couldn't include everything because this video is long enough as it is, but my hope is that you now have a basic understanding of where all the major pieces fit into the canon timeline, and maybe you're interested in picking up some of those stories outside of the films to experience for yourselves. But if I omitted something you think is important to note, please put it in the comments below. Since this is my yearly tradition on May 4th, I'll be looking to improve upon it next year. If you're new to the channel, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, happy Star Wars Day, and may the Force be with you.